Today, this lesson is on 2.4, multiplying rational numbers, basically multiplying fractions and decimals. You guys have done this before, we just need to review it and go over a couple tricks. So the first one we're going to look at is multiplying fractions, or mixed numbers. So if I'm multiplying a whole number times a fraction, I can either turn that into a fraction, because I know fractions, I multiply numerators together and denominators together, as shown below. So if I multiply 1 times 7, which I don't really have to do, if it's a whole number times a fraction, just go ahead and put that in the numerator. So 1 times 7 is going to leave 7 in the denominator. Negative 8 times 6 is negative 48. Now this says to go ahead and simplify. For now, we'll simplify. Just keep in mind that for most algebraic things in the future, improper form is going to be easier to manipulate. So how many times does 7 go into 48? Goes in 6 times with 6 left over. Remember, your remainder is written as your numerator of your new fraction. That negative sign in the 48 I just pulled out to the front of my new mixed number. Okay, part B. This time we're multiplying a whole number times a mixed number. So there's a couple ways we can think about doing this. First, over here on the side, I'm going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. The way I do this is I call it circle math. I'm going to multiply my denominator times my whole number, and then I'm going to add my numerator. So this looks like 5 times 3 plus 1. So I multiply my denominator times my whole number, add my numerator. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16 thirds. So now I've got 2 times 16 thirds. I can multiply 2 times 16. 2 times 16 is 32. And now I'm going to simplify it. 3 goes into 32 10 times, with 2 as my remainder left over. Another way to do this, I could have broken it apart, and sometimes that will be easier and other times it won't. In this case, I think this would have been easier. Because of my distributive property, I can multiply in any order. I could do 2 times 5 plus 2 times 1/3. So all I did was break up my mixed number and multiply it by my 2. So it's kind of like I distributed. Then I've got 2 times 5 is 10, plus 2 times 1/3, just multiply 2 times my numerator. Combine that together, I end up with 10 and 2/3. So in that case, I think it was easier to break it apart. Moving on in our notes. What if I am multiplying 2 fractions? Okay, first I'm going to multiply my numerators. Multiply my numerator straight across, multiply my denominator straight across. So I can see I've got 1 times 6 and 8 times 7. Look for common factors. Now remember, when you're looking for common factors, you're looking at numbers in the numerator and numbers in the denominator. I can't take a common factor out of 2 numerators or a common factor out of 2 denominators. So in this case, I have a common factor of 2 between a number in the numerator and denominator. That would be my 6 and my 8. So I'm going to take a common factor of 2 out. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I'm going to multiply. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 7 is 28. So my simplest form I already have, 3/28. Now, if I hadn't taken out my common factor, I would have ended up with 1 times 6 is 6, and 8 times 7 is 56. And at that point, my common factor would be 2, and I would simplify it, divide them both by 2, and end up with 3/28. Same answer. I like to start with smaller numbers because the math is easier. I can do it mental math, which is faster than a calculator. So if you don't see to reduce it first, just know to look for it at the end. So let's do one more example of this. This time I have a negative times a positive. Negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative. Okay, so again, I'm going to multiply my numerators, which is negative 2 times 9, and in my denominators, 3 times 2. This might be an easier way to look. Oh my goodness, I have two sets of common factors. I've got 2 and 3. So I can take out my 2's, which is going to leave us a 1 in both of them, right? And I can take a 3 out of my 3 and my 9, which is going to leave me with a 1 and a 3. Now all I have left to multiply is 1 times 3 and 1 times 1. So down here, my denominator is 1, my numerator is 3. Still negative from that negative there. Simplest form, negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. Now again, if you hadn't seen those common factors before, you would have just multiplied it out and then reduced it. Okay, you would have had to take a 6 out of it. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so let's take a look at decimals. Remember, multiplying decimals, however many decimal places you begin with is how many decimal places you end with. So this first example, 2 times negative 0.51, negative times a positive is going to be negative. And I count my decimal places. I have 2 decimal places. So over here, my product is negative. So I've got a negative times a positive with 2 decimal places because that's how many there was in the total problem to begin with. So now 2 times negative 0.51 is going to be negative 102. If I just do 2 times 51, I get 102. 2 decimal places. There's my 2 decimal places. So negative 1.02. Okay, negative 0.4 times negative 3.75. My product's going to be, in this case, positive. My signs match. 2 negatives make a positive. So this is going to be positive, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3 decimal places. And if I were just to multiply 4 times 375, I'm going to get 1,500. Okay, now I've got 1, 2, 3 decimal places. Okay, I can drop the zeros after the 5. So after a decimal and after the numbers, those zeros don't matter anymore. So that simplifies to 1.5. Quick little word problem here, because you guys are going to have some word problems. Joy completes 1/20th of her painting each day. How much of her painting does she complete in a 7-day week? Do I want a bigger number or a smaller number? Am I painting more every day? Should I get a bigger number, or am I taking something away? Should I get a smaller number? So I think we're going to multiply, right? So 1/20th times a 7-day week. So 1/20th times 7 over 1. Right, it is an improper fraction. I don't have to because I know when I'm multiplying by a whole number, it just goes into the numerator. So 1 times 7 over 20 times 1, multiply 7/20ths. Now go ahead, remember it's a word problem, so answer it completely and give a unit. Joy completes 7/20ths of her painting in a 7-day week. On to the check it out. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video, work those 4 problems out, and then come back and check your work. I'm going to go ahead and write the answers in. this helped. Good luck. See you later.